Hello. Thank you for joining for my monthly LinkedIn Live where I share some thoughts and ideas about the things that keep coming up, the patterns that I keep seeing. So today, the topic is surprising leadership skills I learned in nature. So the reason that I learned them in nature is that's my time to think, to be creative, to let different kinds of connections come to me. And I don't know about you, but I'm one who, like, I love nothing more than going for a walk in the woods by a lake, that kind of thing. But I don't listen to podcasts a lot. I don't do books on tape. I even try not to take phone calls because that's my time to just sort of really be present. And that's when some different kinds of connections come to me. So that's where I was thinking about some of this stuff. I have the advantage of talking to my clients about a lot of these issues and seeing the situations and the challenges that these executives are facing. And the patterns that I see are much easier to recognize in others than in myself. And that's why say it's an advantage to see that I get sort of a picture of what they are experiencing. And so I've been thinking a lot about the skills toolkit that we all have and how we apply it. And the issue of balance has been coming up a lot. And because, like, what we're thinking about, what we're aware of, we see a lot of what's already on our mind. I'm seeing it everywhere. And then it takes me back to the skills toolkit that we have and how do we deal with it. I advocate that work-life balance is a harmful concept. And you've heard me talk about this before, how I don't love the term, but the more I'm working with it, the more I think it's actually a harmful concept because it suggests that we're different beings in our work and in our lives. And that's just not true. We are all one person. So if we're feeling imbalanced, it's really easy to think that it's the situation that's causing the imbalance. And to a great extent, it is. That my clients are overworked. There's too much to do. They may have just taken on a new level of responsibility. Their staffing situation may not be where it needs to be. Either having the people in place or the talent that they have isn't there yet, that kind of thing. We all have family lives too. Like, there are a lot of things pulling at all of us all the time. All these things are true. But where I always go when I'm dealing with a challenge like imbalance, rather than blame the situation, I look to what can I control in the situation. I coach my clients about what they can control in the situation. And by focusing on the things that we can act on, that, just the process of getting into action can really relieve a lot of worry and anxiety and cut through all those things that drain our energy and allow us to just better release the things we can't influence so that we can focus on the things we can influence. So my business mind approach always goes to, what is the challenge? Are we clear on it? We have to be clear on it to assure that we're fixing the right thing. If not, go there, invest a bit into figuring out what's causing this problem for you. In this case, that imbalance. And then I go to, what resources do we have to apply to it, to anything? If the situation is a business challenge, the resources that we have would include things like the talent, the people, the time, the money. But for each of us, the true resources that we have to bring to anything is our skill set. Things like critical thinking, strategic focus, communication skills, leadership experience, gratitude. Okay, so if you're thinking that in that list, one of these things is not like the other, I agree. Or I used to agree until I began thinking about our skill set differently. We have a whole set of skills we think of as applying to leadership, some of which I just mentioned: critical thinking, strategic focus, communication skills. And then we have this other subset of our skills that we think of as applying to life, things like gratitude, as I mentioned before, But I'll add like self-awareness, curiosity, empathy, kindness. The list could go on. So we have these two different sort of subsets of our overall toolkit. Okay. So think about a time when you took on a big challenge at work. How did you approach it? I mean, you probably did some version of get clear on the objective, set your priorities, determine resources needed and assure you have them, establish a timeline, gain alignment and support from stakeholders, determine metrics for success, develop your project plan. Like that's probably not exactly it, but it's probably in the neighborhood. And then I know what you did was you took all of your available resources, divided in half, and then got to work using only half of what you had to work with. You didn't do that? Of course you didn't do that. Why would you ever do that? It's the same for our individual toolkit. What if we view our entire toolkit of leadership plus life skills as one thing and just apply it wherever it adds value? So let me make the case for a couple of these sort of crossover skills or surprising leadership skills. Some of them we think is personal skills. Like let's take gratitude. Gratitude makes so much sense in our personal lives, right? It's appreciating the things we have. It's showing active appreciation for the people in our lives or good things that people do for us. It's thanking them. It's taking a moment to sort of savor the good things that we have. Well, how is gratitude a leadership skill? It's not all that much different. Think about a situation, even like a really challenging situation at work where you're working on a project, you're leading a project, and it goes sideways. The things to be frustrated about are really obvious, but let's look for some things to be grateful for. There were a lot of people that put in a lot of effort to do what they thought was the best in the best way that they knew how. The outcome isn't always guaranteed, but it doesn't mean they didn't put in the effort. There were probably people that pitched in to help clean up the mess. We can have gratitude for them too. And just by going to that, thinking about a work situation, and that was a tough one, through a lens of gratitude, it shifts all of your energy. And if you think about it too, with the people that you may need to deal with in that difficult situation, expressing that gratitude to them, thanking them for what it is that they did, even if the outcome wasn't what you all wanted to do, can open the door and sort of ease the way into a tougher conversation that you may need to have about what needs to be done differently the next time, knowing everything that you know now. The gratitude is still there. It doesn't take away from the need to have that developmental conversation, but it certainly opens the door for it. Let's think of another one. What about curiosity? How is curiosity a leadership skill? I actually really like it as a leadership skill because the opposite of curiosity is judgment. And if you go, like, let's take that challenging situation again. If you go into that prejudging what happened, this person was wrong, this thing happened, they didn't check that, whatever it is, you go into that conversation with a predetermined judgment of what it was that happened. You may be right, but you may not be right. And even if you are right, you may shut down any learning opportunity for yourself, for the company, for the individual. If you go into it with curiosity about why did this particular thing happen? What were the assumptions that we made that maybe were wrong? What was the approach that we could take differently next time? And really sort of doing a post-mortem through a view of curiosity, not judgment, to try and figure out where you come to. And I said judgment and curiosity are sort of the opposites of one another, but they doesn't mean they're mutually exclusive. They may be sequential. Go to curiosity first. Learn what you can. If you were right to begin with, you can go to judgment. There's time to catch up. But you may land in a different place, and the whole spirit of it will be so that the individuals learn what they could do differently. The company doesn't miss the opportunity to learn something based on what didn't work well. And people will be much more open to trying new things, which is how your business is going to grow. So, curiosity, I think, is another one of those unexpected, surprising leadership skills. So, let's go the other way. What about some of the things we think of as leadership skills that could apply to other areas of our lives? Like strategic planning. How do you approach that? You analyze the situation, you assess the opportunities and challenges and risks, you set your priorities, you develop your action plans, you develop your metrics and your scorecards. It's a process we know so well at work, but it can be applied to life. Like, what if you apply that to planning a family vacation? You can get your family together and have a discussion of, analyzing the situation. In this case would look like, what are the expectations everyone has based on where it is you're going? What research have you done to know what the opportunities are there, the things that you might want to see, how you want to be spending your time? And then making all that fit. Different members of the family may have different ideas about things. How can you prioritize that and make sure that everyone's needs are being met, at least to some extent, even if nobody gets exactly everything that they want? Developing action plans. What are you going to do first? What do you need to put into place to be ready for that to happen? And even metrics and scorecards, checking in with people to see if they're having a good time, if we want to make a change to the plan. Like, that is bringing strategic planning skills into our personal lives. And so it's cool to think about how, if you open up your thinking, skills that serve you really well in one aspect of your life can also serve you really well in another. The giving feedback is another one. It's clear why we need to do that at work, but at home, um, I'm not suggesting that you manage your family, although I have been accused of doing that. But it's really more a matter of using these giving feedback skills. Like, if you had a concern that an approach your child was taking to something, especially if there was a safety issue involved, you might give them a little space to figure it out, but then you'd probably provide some fast, supportive, specific feedback, express support, and then give them space to implement it. Kind of like you do with people at work when you're helping to develop new skills with them. And think about the impact that could have on your family. They would feel supported, they would also feel guided, but they would feel that you really respected and valued their perspective, their intent, and you were right there behind them. Works at work, works at home. So my suggestion is that we just broaden our thinking about the skills we have and where we can apply them. Don't limit yourself. Just like I think that work-life balance is a harmful concept, so is the thinking that we should take 50% of our available resources and apply them to a problem. Okay, so that's my rant for the day, against work-life balance and thinking about that in a different way. As I've socialized the concept a little bit, it's interesting because I often get multiple questions. This time I got one question, but I got it multiple times. And that was really around, how can I put this into practice? How can I think about, if I'm faced with an issue, how can I think about bringing all of my skills to that issue? And I don't know that there's really any one way to do it, but I think it starts with self-awareness and thinking about the problem, like taking a pause and thinking about what is the situation that you're dealing with, whether it's at work or in other aspects of your life. And focus, you can either do this proactively or you can do it retrospectively. If you have a moment to think about something you're taking on proactively, take a pause and think about, what is the issue and what are your best skills that you can bring to it. It's kind of easy to answer the question. If it's a leadership challenge, you bring your leadership skills. Challenge yourself to think about it a different way. What life skills can I bring to this situation that could make my approach either more effective, more efficient? Like, why work harder than you have to? So I would say just taking a pause to challenge yourself on, are you bringing your best, and what's a different way that you can approach it? And if it's retrospectively, in some ways it's easier. It's like you can do that post-mortem on, what did you do? What was the approach you did and why? Was it just a reflex or was it just the first thing that you thought of? And then you can start applying that proactively and taking that pause and thinking about how you want to put this into practice going forward. It's really about being mindful of it and just seeing what skill you can apply to the work situation or the home life private situation. So, I'd love to hear what questions you may have about this, what thoughts you may have. If you disagree with me, bring it on. I'd love to hear about that too. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for paying attention. Thanks for being here.